Okay, so whenever we're using Photoshop or any of these applications, again, this is a bitmap application mostly, but there is vector stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about bringing something in from Illustrator into Photoshop, because sometimes you will be, remember when we did the icon and so on? Do I bring it in as a smart object? Do I bring it in as a shape? And so on. Here in Photoshop, some of the things that you should consider thinking about is, of course, this one right here, 8-bit. This bit depth is, of course, computer terms to describe how many colors a pixel is. 1 bit is 2 colors, right? 16-bit is 65,000 colors. Or not 16-bit, I meant 16. Let's just move on to 8-bit. Let's look at the list here. Oh, they don't even have 1 bit in here anymore. You got 8-bit, 16-bit, and 32-bit. What is the difference between them? It's just more of how many colors, and it's really not going to change. So I didn't really want to talk about that right now. So let's not even go there right now. Let me make something first, and then we'll talk about how to convert it. So in this case, you also have advanced options, which we really didn't talk about before. One of them is the color space that you see right here. Probably the only thing I really dealt with as far as color space, our sRGB is the default one, is that sometimes if you have a specific printer that you're working with, you can then tell your version of the programs to work with this specific color profile of the printer, so that when you see the red on the screen, it's the red that comes out, and so on. So there's one way to match what you're doing in the computer to the printer, and that's with a color profile. And there's a whole bunch of them in there. You can download. I thought I downloaded it for that printer. I don't know if I did. There's some Epson in there, Fujifilm, Kodak in there, and so on. You could see all the different types of films. A lot of this are for, of course, printing and things like that, but I just wanted to point it out there. And then these pixels here, why do we have different sized pixels? These are kind of old, but back when we would make graphics for video inside of Photoshop, we used to have non-square pixels, right? Most pixels on the screen are square. Pixels are square. But in video in the old days, some of the pixels would be like this. And the reason why is just so that the video camera was shooting in a certain way that it had to stretch the actual pixels. And so that's why we have all these different options here. So you don't really have to do that anymore. Today's modern video cameras and today's modern monitors all can deal with a square pixel. I don't do this anymore. This is something I did 10, 15 years ago. So you don't have to worry about non-square pixels anymore. So just pointing those out under the advanced option. So if I hit create right now, it made me an artboard that is white right here, white. And in this case, I want to make some graphics in Photoshop that I'm going to put on a website. Okay, so I tend to use more of this, but you can use bitmap images as well. Again, you have selection tools inside of Photoshop as well as vector tools inside of Photoshop. In the old days, before they had vector tools, we used to use just plain selection tools. Again, you do have your layers window right here. So let me simply make a graphic. I didn't really choose a specific size, did I? I just kind of, let me deselect that. I just kind of started, I don't even know what size this artboard is. Doesn't even matter at this point. We're going to talk about size after we make something. So let's first make something. In this case, I'm going to make a circle, and I'm going to make, I can make a new layer for that circle as well, and I can fill in that circle with a color. And when I'm choosing colors, of course, over here, if you go to color option right here, this is in 8-bit. Remember we talked about 8-bit? 8-bit is what we call 16 million colors because it's 8 bits of red, 8 bits of green, 8 bits of blue. Those 8 bits then all convert up to 16 million colors. Notice right now middle gray is 149, 149, 149, which is in the middle, right? If I put in 255 red and put in 0, 0, it's going to be pure red. So knowing how to add these colors up is important. I don't really use the LAB or CMYK very much because I mostly make graphics for screens. So when you're making graphics for screens, the RGB is probably the most important one. Then of course you have your hexadecimal values, which is these FF00000. These are the plain hexadecimal values that are used in web design. Of course, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can mix and match the hexadecimal values. The reason why they have them is just because it's easier for web programming, that you can use the web hexadecimal values. But nowadays in web programming, we can also use HSB, I believe, as well as RGB in CSS. Can you use RGB in CSS or only no, just HSB?
You can use RGB.
You can use RGB?
Yeah, you can put RGBA and then A is transparent.
Oh yeah, for the alpha. Yeah. Thank you. So, if you don't know what hexadecimal values are as far as colors, you should look it up on Wikipedia. It's basically, why is there numbers and letters? It has to do with decimal and different placement of ones and zeros. And it has to do with counting, right? The computer is basically a giant calculator. So it's a way of expanding the ability of the computer to represent a number without having just ones and zeros. You can have letters in there as well. And that's why you have letters and numbers. So you should read in Wikipedia. So you could choose a color, hit OK, and I can fill that in. Boom, I have a circle. Okay, one of the things I talked about first was the Craig Sherritt and the anti-aliasing idea that I talked about. So again, here's my circle that the animator talked about back in 1988 with me. And if I deselect this, Command D is to deselect. If I zoom in to the edge, you can see the edge of the circle and where the pixels kind of blend together. And if you look closely, you can see that the circle is here, but of course white is in the background here. So what is happening, the computer is calculating the difference between the red, the solid red, and the white, and then putting all the different levels in between. Okay? That's referred to as anti-aliasing. That is the term used to describe that. Aliasing would be is if it doesn't do that and it has a hard edge, okay, and it doesn't have all this, and so it would just be one color pixel to another color pixel without any blending along the edges. Jean teaches you this in her class, I think, right? I'm sure she does. I'm just reinforcing it always. Okay, I'm just reinforcing it with you. I'm making sure you know it as well. And the more that you talk about these things, the better you'll learn about them, especially terms. Yes?
Is it about perfect pixel or is it different?
No, yeah, we'll talk perfect pixel next week. When we get into making things that are perfectly, today's just concept-wise, okay? We're going to make graphics that are perfect, pixel perfect. We have videos that we watch. There's some reading that we do, and then we're going to try that and making sure. So this is not that. That's above this. This is just concept. So yeah, this is just concept today. Just making sure you know the terms, okay? So that's anti-aliasing as well. So let's do another circle real quick here, and so that you can understand. This time I'm going to do a circle with a feather. And let me put 20 feather in there, and I'm going to put another circle on there. And then let's fill that in with red as well. Now you'll notice the feather gives you more blending along the edge. And if I zoom in, you see the feather option gives you more blending. So how does that work and what is going on here? Well, in this case, since we are working within the color space, we have basically not necessarily three things, which would be red, green, and blue. But we also have transparency, or a level to my graphic here that has transparency. Okay, the transparency is called alpha, as Jennifer pointed out there. It's an alpha, what's called the alpha channel. And of course, Jean kind of loves the channels and mask, and that's what a mask basically is. So if you go into your color space, maybe not this color space, what color? Oh, channels, I'm sorry. don't teach Photoshop. I know I teach. It looks like I teach Photoshop, but I don't teach it all the time. If we go into channels here, you'll notice I have red. No, what do I want to show the alpha? Where would I show the alpha? Green, blue. This is changing on me here. Thought it would be in channels. It should be red, green, blue. Doesn't matter at this point. What's the important part right now, and what I'm trying to explain is the PNG file that is on the board there. So let's say I love this red dot and I want to put it on my website, or I want to put it in my app. I want a red dot in my app, or a red dot on my website. How would I save this for that? Of course I want this on its own layer. Let me get that on its own layer here. Let me copy this. Let me cut it out of here. Make it its own layer. There we go. It's on its own layer. There we go. So it's on its own layer. Okay, so if I was going to save this out, I think I told you that you could go over here to the layers window, and I can come over here, and you should be able to export as PNG right here from this window. So again, a quick way is, and I know this is not a great layout here, but another way to save your file out of Photoshop. Let's say you have a nice, beautiful layout. You guys made some beautiful layouts in your list, right? Maybe you made your list. You want to save each of the pieces out of your list as an individual graphic. This is one way of doing it, is that you can select the image as it is in the layer window. Notice how I have the layer that I want selected here. This is my blended, what is this? This is my circle with the alpha. I have it selected. I go over here. I go export as PNG. It's going to come up. It's going to ask you, hey, you want to save it as a PNG? I'm going to say, yeah, I want to save it as a PNG. And then I hit, and let's make a folder. And I save it. Okay, so if we go and look at that PNG right now, and we open it up, you'll notice it has nice smooth edges, and depending upon the background you choose, this will always have that transparency along the edge. That's why we use a PNG. The purpose of the PNG, and it's a 24-bit PNG too, there's different bit depths to PNG, but the PNG has the ability to allow you to have this nice soft edge. So if I was to put this in, let's say, Xcode, put it on an app, I could put this over a textured background, and the texture would be blended here to this, right? There's levels of transparency along the edge here. Okay, that's what PNG allows you to do. Jpeg can have a transparent layer. If I would save this as a Jpeg, it's going to be square. Let's go and save it as a Jpeg. Here's the problem with the Jpeg. So let me copy this to a new layer, because I don't know if I can save this out as a JPEG. Export as, maybe right here under export as. Oh yeah, there's the PNG. You can see the transparency along the edge right there. Do you see that? Right? So if I go over here to JPEG, boom, it's a square. I go and try and put that on my website, it's going to look just like that with a white square. If I try and put this on my website, it's going to be a circle, and the edges will be nice and soft. The downfall, though, of course, is the file size is bigger. Let's look down here. Oh, you can't see it. Where's the file size? It usually tells you the file size in this window somewhere, doesn't it? Oh, here it is. Look. See the circle with the alpha. See how it says alpha there? Right? That means it has a transparent edge. You see it right here. And it tells you 28.8 kilobytes, right? If I go JPEG, it's a little smaller, but not quite as much. But the quality's at 100%, and usually I would save it down a little bit. There, look, I can go all the way down to 11 kilobytes, but I don't have any transparency there. So that's no good. So you have JPEG, PNG, the famous Gif. The famous GIF comes from the early days of the web, back when the internet or the World Wide Web was just getting started. We had a GIF format. The problem with the GIF is that it's only 256 colors or less, so it's not a 24-bit image like the PNG and Jpeg are. It's not in millions of colors. It's only in 256. And if you look closely here at the edge, you will see that it is blending. You can have only one color transparent. So do you remember when we were doing the anti-aliasing, you saw all the different shades of white along the edge, right? Well, only one of those shades can be transparent. So you're going to get these, what we call white fuzzy edges. Back in the days, I used to call it white fuzzy edges. That's not to say that GIF is a bad format. GIF is a good format for certain things. It's just GIF is an older format that is, probably the greatest thing about a GIF is you can animate it, right? You've all seen your animated GIFs probably before, especially in your Facebook thing and stuff like that. So PNG is 24-bit. Notice how it has a transparency. And then you have JPEG, which is, of course, solid white. And then you have your GIF, which has this edge right here. And then you have SVG, which can have some transparency as well. But I would tend to use probably Illustrator to do this. But I guess you could have a transparency and, yeah. So you can save as SVG right here in Photoshop. The other thing you can do is if you want to save this circle in all the different formats as inside of Photoshop here, you can all go over here. See a little plus right here? So I know we haven't talked about size yet for that, but let's say I was going to put this circle in my app for Xcode. And I think I told you for Xcode you can have what, 3 different file sizes, right? For app design, we have our 1x right there. I can hit the plus right here, and then they do have a suffix right here because you have to name it a certain way. And then you have a half x there. I would do 2x, and then I can click again, and I can have 3x. So basically, it's going to save them as different sizes. Looks like automatically for you. I don't know. I'd have to export out and see how this works. And we can put the at 1x. There we go. So we have at 1x, at 2x, at 3x. And that, you have to name it a certain way. And I'll give you some information about that when we get to making graphics. So again, next few weeks we'll be talking about web graphics as well as app graphics. This is an introduction. If I hit export all and I put it in my graphics folder, it would save all 3 formats out for me. As you can see, you got your 1x, 2x, 3x. Notice how the file size is bigger because it's automatically changing the size for you. So this one is for a bigger phone, and then of course this one is for the iPhone X, or yeah, whatever. So this is how you would save it. And if you save it like this, again, you don't have to worry about it. If you save it like this, you don't have to worry about it in Xcode. You bring them into Xcode, and the program will actually put the appropriate one on the phone. It does it automatically for you. You don't even have to think about that. So that's basics of PNG and JPEG. Let me get a photo up. Let's get a photo going here. If I can find a photo. That's a hockey photo. I need a nice photo. I need a photo from my camera. I need just a raw photo from my camera. Jeff's Madness. Oh, here's some raw photos. Maybe. They're all from the internet. New student photos? What is this? Oh no, that's from the fashion show. No. Okay, one more trick while I'm going through all this. Let's Stills. Show stills. No, not that one. I thought I had some pictures in there. Uh-oh, Ashley dies. Uh-oh. I don't even have a picture on here. Okay, last trick as far as this. If you have a video and you like videos and you want to steal a picture from a video, open it up in QuickTime. So you like this picture right here, right? Open your video up in QuickTime, which is the video player, right? What year was QuickTime invented? I told you last class. 1991. You just go under copy. If I can find copy. There's no copy. Oh, here it is. Copy. So if you have a video on your computer and you want to take a frame or a picture from the video, open it in QuickTime, go copy, go over to Photoshop, say File, New. Just make a new file. Just say File, New. Don't change anything. And then paste is Command V. There you go. So I do that often as far as the ability to save a picture. Okay, so let's talk about using Photoshop a little bit today. Of course, when I use Photoshop for images, and let's say you're putting images on a website, you all want them to be the same size and so on. So let's say I'm designing a website and I need my photos to be all 400 pixels wide by 250 pixels high, right? Something like that. That's pretty small, but that's a good size. So how do I make my images that? Of course, we can adjust the exposure and make this picture better, but that's okay. So what I want to talk is, of course, these options here under image size, canvas size, crop tool. Those are the ones I use to make images different sizes. So here we go. I want to put this photo on my website. I stole it from a video. If you remember how I stole it from the video, open QuickTime, find the frame, copy and paste. Right? Okay. Probably the easiest way to make an image the correct size you want is to use the crop tool. This one is the crop tool right there. In the crop tool, you have resolution, you have height and width and resolution. So you have height, width, resolution right here. So if I need to put this on my website that's going to be 450 pixels wide by, what did I say, 250 pixels high at 72 dpi, I can type it in here, 450 px. Make sure you put it into px because it'll default to inches. That's a common mistake that students make, is that they just put 450 in there and then they put the 250 over here without putting px for pixels. And what happens is that it thinks it's inches and you're sitting there waiting for it to crop into big file. So px, and then I'm going to put 72 in here because that's the common size for resolution for screens. So you'll notice the first thing off the bat is it gives you the boxes around the edges. This is pretty much in the same ratio, as you can tell. You can move it smaller. You can move it around if you want. And get it the way you want it. Whenever you're done making the window the size you want, hit the move tool right here. Boom. It's going to say, do you want to crop the image? Yes, I want to crop it. Boom. It's exactly 450, and if I go under image size, I can measure it. Under image size, it'll tell you the information. I can go to pixels in there, 450 by 250 at 72 dpi. Right? Let's do another one. Where's my video? Oh, here it is. Okay. If you've never seen a Harvey video, this is a good Harvey video. Harvey does everything with potato chips. He loves potato chips. And he does it because he gets the kids because they like food. Kids. This is from the summer. Okay, here we go. So again, to take a frame of video, you go under Edit, Copy, go back to your Photoshop, Edit, New, File, New, hit Create, Paste, Command V, and so now I have another image. Again, if I want this to be 450 by, well, let's do a different size. Let's say that I need this to be 250 by 250. Well, one of the problems you're going to run into, of course, is that you're going to have to crop some of this out. So if I wanted this to be 250 by 250, you'll notice it's square. And, of course, you would have to go around and do whatever you want there. You know, see, I can only get one person in this square one, right? What if I need them both to be in a 250 by 250 area? Okay? I need them both to be in there. Well, of course, you're going to run into issues with dimensions. There's no way this is going to be 250 by 250. Well, here's one way. Maybe you can put white on top and bottom. How about that? Maybe you're making a website and you have a white, you know, the image still needs to be 250 by 250, but you have a white background on your website. So here's how I would do it. First thing is I would not use the crop tool. Okay, what I would do is I would use image. Oh, I'm going to hit escape. Remember, if something's happening and you don't know what's going on, I came up there and it wouldn't let me do something, right? Always hit escape. So in this case, if I want it to be 250 by 250 with white on top and bottom, this is how I would do it. I would go under image size. I first would go to pixels. I would make the width 250. Not worry about the height at this point. And I would hit OK. Next, then, I would go under image. Oh, zoom in a little bit so you can see them. I know it's making it small and pixelated. Yep, that's kind of small image and pixelated. You can see the pixels in there. Because it's the resolution isn't very high. The 250 pixels is not a lot. Next, if I go under image canvas size, is what I would do next. I would then go and type in 250 for my canvas size. Oh, 250 for my canvas size. So when you type in a canvas size, it's asking you how do you want to expand the box. And I'm going to do from the center out. Sometimes I go from the bottom up if I want all white on top, or go from the top down, all white on the bottom. But right now I'm going to do center up. It's going to put 75 pixels on top, or 78 point whatever, and 78 on the bottom. Right? So if I hit OK right now, it's going to give me an image that looks like that, which is kind of a compromise, but at least I got the two people in there. And I'm going to save it as the proper dimension for my website. If I was going to save this for a website, I would use Jpeg in this case. I know we did PNG before and stuff, but if I go under File, Save As, and let's just go into our options there again. Where was the Export As? Remember the Export As? Again, let's just look. We have PNG 84.6 kilobytes. Do you see that? If I come over here to JPEG, 49.4, it's about half of what the PNG is. I know the circle looked good, right? Remember we were doing the circle with the alpha channel? That worked pretty good, especially with PNG. But if I am saving a photo or an image like this that has what we call continuous tone, right? These are all different colors in here. The JPEG is going to give you a much better compression ratio than PNG. I know a lot of people that use PNG. PNG is great because, well, you know, one reason why PNG was invented, and this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, was because of color. You know, color was a major problem back in the early web because people had crappy monitors. And we all have these nice, beautiful Apple monitors, right? But back then we had these CRT tubes, and you know, my monitor was only 13 inches. It was like this big, you know, and the problem is that you would save it as a JPEG, put it on your website, and that red coat that you were looking at on a shopping site, it shows up at your door and it was really orange, right? Because the colors of the monitors weren't very good. So one reason why, there's two reasons really why PNG was kind of invented. One was it's a better color space in that it could have a profile to it. So this has a better color space. And what I mean by color space is it has a more expanded color space. And the other thing is, remember I talked about how the printer has a color profile, right? The PNG actually can have a color profile to it. And now I think you can have a color space convert to RGB. You can actually embed a color profile. You can embed it now into Jpeg, but in the early days you couldn't. See how it says embed color profile here, right here? Back in the early days you could do that with a PNG, but not with a Jpeg. And so when I was making my website, I could have it red, and the color profile would go along with the file as it's downloaded off the internet to the person's computer, and the color profile will then make it a little bit better or closer matching with the original images. Because it's using a color profile that's with the image and not necessarily just on the monitor. So that was one way. The other problem, and they wanted to invent PNG, is because of licensing. And there was a company that claimed that they owned the patent to PNG. And people were like, oh, we're going to have to start paying licensing fee to that, right? And Gif is owned by CompuServe. CompuServe owns Gif. So you have to pay a licensing fee. You don't pay the fee. Adobe pays the fee for you, right? That's why you buy Photoshop and so on. It's kind of open source now. But I'm talking licensing and open source now. Back in 1997, there was a company that said, hey, we own the patent to PNG, and if you want to use it, you're going to have to pay us. And that company was Intel. Intel claimed that they owned the patent to PNG at one point. And it went to court, and it was thrown out. So it's kind of open source. But that was an issue. So they came up with PNG, which is open source. You can use that for free. It's open source kind of thing. But, having these formats, and of course, Adobe owns PDF. You have to pay for that, pay the license. SVG is open source. Open source, kind of open source. CompuServe, Adobe. So again, don't forget about the canvas size. It's a really good way of going about trying to get an image that doesn't fit. And then, of course, you can put any color background you want in there. And if you want it to be transparent, you just go to PNG. I know it looks white right there. Here, let me hit cancel. Let me get rid of the white background. Boom. Yes, okay. Got rid of the white background. Look, it's transparent there, right? If I go under now, File, Export, Export As, again, and we choose PNG now, look, transparent, transparent. It's still square. When you save this and you program it onto your website or you program it into your app, it's still going to have transparency there. In fact, the Xcode has transparency option right there. You can put this right in there. No problem. Right? No problem. It will work with the transparency. So I do this all the time because I need to have images that are the square. Here, let's just look at one of them. Let's look at some of them. You knew I was going to do it. You knew I was going to do it. You knew I was going to do it. Sorry. On a tools page here, let's just look at a tools page. Oh. Let's look at a tools page. This is actually square. I know it looks like a product just sitting there, but when I make this photo of this product and I save it, the file is this, it's square. Okay? Just like I showed you with the canvas size, there's canvas size over here. Okay, it's not saved like this. It's saved with this. It's saved square. I can't remember the dimensions right now. 600 by 600 or something like that. So, this is an example of me using the canvas size right here. I use the canvas size to make the images square. Because the program for the box, remember, this is a div tag, right? Those of you who've taken the web development. This is just a div tag. I need my photo to fit perfectly in my div tag so it's not distorted. And so I save it using the canvas size. There's no good photos here. All right, let's look at another one. So it is a problem. Here, I'll show you one of the problems I run into with that. And which one is that? It is under, maybe it's this one, yeah. So one of the problems is this, in that if you don't save the size right, watch what happens on, not that one, this one right here. No, not this one. Which one? One of these had a problem. Maybe we fixed it. where it was cropping the edge because the photo was not perfectly square. Yeah, I fixed it, or somebody else fixed it. I don't know. Okay, this is an example of cropping, right? Just like I showed you with the crop tool. This photo is not, it's the camera that I use there is a Sony A4, it's a 42 megapixel camera, it's high resolution. The photos on my screen are huge, I just use the crop tool, crop it to the size I want it. I'm not going to save it with all those pixels in there for the website, and just crop it, put it on the website. Of course, I fake the arrow there, right? That's fake there. Photoshop, there you go. Photoshop, right? That's why I use Photoshop. Okay, so you see that, again, you can look inside. Oh, you can look inside and see the pixels there. Okay, let's just do one more JPEG talk, and then we're going to move on. Let's do one more JPEG. Last thing I'm going to talk about as far as JPEG, I need one more image. Hold on, we're going to steal another picture from this video. Sorry. Let's get another picture from the video. I'm looking for my son. He's in here somewhere. Thought he was in here. Ah, I wanted that one. This one. Okay. Again, to take a picture from a video, it's very easy. You go under Edit, Copy, go to Photoshop, File, New, Create, Paste, Command V. Okay, let's talk about saving. So, this is probably not the best example because it's already compressed. I would love to have an original picture from a camera. Let me see if I find one. If I could just find one. I have no original pictures from a camera. Oh, here's some original photos. Oh, here we go. I don't know what this is. Well, let's open this up. Ooh, that looks like Los Gatos Creek running very fast. Okay, so if you don't know that, certain cameras. Let me close this. Close this. Close this. Let's leave that open for now. Again, some cameras can save in RAW format. So if you notice, the cameras that I use here are can save in JPEG. JPEG. Let's find a good photo. Okay, again, you could save a picture in JPEG. See how it's in JPEG? Or in camera RAW. This CRT is a RAW format. Okay, so what is the difference between them? Well, of course, JPEG has been compressed because JPEG is a compression algorithm where RAW is uncompressed. So usually I start with the RAW one, open it in Photoshop. When you open a photo in RAW in Photoshop, you'll notice you have these options. Since it's RAW, it means the pixels that are in the camera, right? Because the camera has a CCD in there, charge coupler device kind of chip in there, or a CMOS chip in there, whatever. Depends on the camera you're using. And basically you're looking at an image that's matching. So this RAW camera is a matching. So the pixels you see on the screen are the pixels that are in the camera. So that's what RAW means. It's uncompressed, which is usually going to give you a better image. But this is kind of the reason why it's kind of grainy like this is because it was kind of a dark scene, and they used a high ISO. And so if you're using a really, you can't really see it too much. Oh, you can see the graininess here. So one of the things you have in a digital camera is something called ISO, and that ISO is basically the power to the chip. And the more power to the chip, the more noise. That we refer to this as noise. And so, of course, adding more power to the chip, you can take more pictures in the dark. You ever take pictures in the dark with your phone and stuff, right? It's kind of fuzzy. You know, that's called gain, or of course you can adjust the ISO. So that's sort of what you're looking at here. This has a really ISO kind of look to it. But again, in Camera Raw, you have a lot more editing capabilities before you actually open in Photoshop, right? I adjust the temperature, make it warmer or cooler. Tint's kind of that same. Exposure makes it brighter or darker. Contrast and clarity will kind of make it sharper a little bit. But there is also sharpening tools in here. So I use Camera Raw, and a lot of the digital cameras, you can take both Camera Raw and JPEG at the same time. That's why you saw 2 of each, right? It had a JPEG and a RAW one. So I use this all the time. So I'm going to take a picture like this. I'm going to put it on my website. You can see the graininess right there. Look at that. Graininess. But that's not too bad. I mean, I could deal with the graininess now because I'm going to blur it a little bit. And so clarity, of course, it gives you a little bit more sharpness a little bit. And I don't like a lot of that. That looks kind of crappy like that. He looks too scary like that, right? So maybe something like this. Vibrance and saturation is basically how much color. If you want more color in your image, you would crank up the vibrance. You see how it's getting more color in it? And saturation is really more color. Look at that. And of course, tint, I use that a lot to make something cooler or warmer, You know, most of the photos I take are of a yellow product. Very difficult. You know, I have a yellow freaking product. Hard to take a picture of that because of the temperature. It's very difficult to get the. My challenge is the yellow, to look the same yellow on every photo. You know, it's very hard when I'm taking pictures of those stud finders because they're all yellow, and to get the same yellow on each picture is very difficult. Temperature helps a lot, but it's not the perfect fix. So if you open the image, again, we want to save this as a JPEG because we want to put it on our website again. First thing I would say is what size is it going to be on my website? Again, if you want it to be square or something like that, we could do, let's do 800 pixels by 800 pixels. Very nice. Again, I can move it around. This might be, you know, perfect for my list. And if I hit the tool after I use the crop tool right there, boom, it'll crop it to the right size. Let's zoom in and see what it looks like. And you'll notice it's still kind of very grainy. One way to avoid, if you do shoot with a high ISO and you get kind of grainy like this, there's a couple things you can do. You can either blur it, put a blur on it so it doesn't look so grainy like that. You can see the grain. Or there's a tool called Speckle. Speckle works well. It's underneath the filter. And it's underneath sharpen. No, it's under blur. No, where's Speckle? Noise. Speckle. That one tends to work well too if you have a really grainy kind of image and you want to make it despeckle. There you go. You can see it's less. Here's before. See before and then after. Before, after, before, after, before, after. Just slight. Okay, let's talk about JPEG. So here's a common issue when it comes to web design as well as app design is, do you need to have the image at the super high quality? Now I know I made this, what is it, 800 by 800 or something like that? Didn't I make it something like that, right? If I was going to go in File, save this for my website, I can use Save As well because I'm going to use JPEG here. Oh, actually, let's use the export one. Export as. Again, I wouldn't use PNG. Look at that. It's a whole megabyte. Look at that. Whole megabyte for PNG. Now, there is a scale for PNG where you can turn the quality down, but that's still going to be too big. I would not put this on my website in PNG. Do not use PNG for a photo like this on your website or in your app or anything. I would use JPEG. First off, JPEG's half the size already. Look, 449 kilobytes. That's half of 1 megabyte. This is less than half. It's more than half of 1 megabyte. So right there, it's a smaller file. The next thing is, let's zoom in a little bit. Oh, it's not going to let me zoom in. How do I zoom? Oh, here's a zoom feature. Let's zoom in a little bit. And it looks pretty good. I mean, it's a little blurry because the picture wasn't good at the very beginning. But it's not too bad. Okay, let's change the quality. So one of the things about a JPEG is JPEG has a slider or the ability to change the compression. More compression, smaller file. But let's look at how. So this is the compression option right here. See the compression? So if I click on this and I go down, down, let's do half. Let's do 50%. That's half of the compression. Okay, do you see a difference in the image? Can you see the difference between that and, oh, let's go back up to 100%. That's 100%. Here, let me zoom out a little bit. Oh, zoom out. I don't know. Let's zoom in maybe around a corner or something. Let's zoom in on a corner. There we go. Let's see. Let's see this. So again, this is 100%. Let's go down to 50%. A little difference. Could you see a little bit of a difference? But not too much. But look at the file size now. Only 90 kilobytes. It's one tenth of what the PNG was, right? It's 1/10. Download much faster, especially people using the cell phone network. Remember we talked a little bit about people who are surfing the internet on their cell phone. I'm going to put this on my website. I'm going to use JPEG. I'm going to reduce this stuff. Is this really going to make a difference? You're never going to see the difference of that, especially on your phone. You know, he still looks good. If I put this on my website now, I can barely tell the difference between 100% and 50%. Look how much it's even. You might even go down even further. So think about compression. It's a very useful feature. You're going to save a lot of size. You're going to save a lot of download speeds. It's rather important when you're trying to squeeze data through things. Again, JPEG is what I would use. Of course, I wouldn't use a GIF. GIF's not too bad, but look at the size. Just a GIF right now is 420. It's smaller than the there, but of course, if you remember, I told you it's only 256 colors. Look at the inside here. You can see this thing called dithering. See the dithering? This term that we use to describe this is dithering. You can see the different colors here. The reason why what JPEG or GIF is doing is it's trying to take, it makes a palette, what's called a color palette. And that color palette is 256 colors. That's it, only 256 colors. So what it's trying to do is blend this image with those 256, that's all they have, 256 colors. Try and blend this to look somewhat decent. The term we use to describe that is called dithering. The term is dithering. You can see how the little dots are in here. It's called dithering. So I wouldn't save that as a GIF. And of course, you wouldn't use an SVG here. That's not going to work at all. Don't try and use a photo. So I tend not to use PNG for photos. I tend to use JPEG better for a photo, compression-wise, and then reduce it. So that's that. Okay, let's move on to computer graphics a little bit more and less photos. So hopefully you got the idea. I do a lot of cropping. I do a lot of saving in certain formats. I do a lot of compressing so it fits. Don't forget about the canvas size to make your image the appropriate size that you need, especially if it's square or something like that, and you need to do that. Those are very important tools. I use them every day almost. Okay, these are ones I use pretty much every day. Okay, let's talk about graphics for a moment. Let's say I'm making let's just do a quick mock-up here for my Pro here. Let's do that, and let's quickly go and let's make where are we at here? Yeah, let's use some tools here. Let's make a little button here. Let's give it some color. Oops. Let's give it some color. Let's put a little line around it. Let's put a little line around it. Let's put pink. Ooh, let's make it bigger. Beautiful. Look at that. Beautiful pink square. Let's put some text in there. Awful small. It's okay. Size doesn't matter at this point. How do I guess I have to zoom in, really. Oof, how big is my canvas size here? Whatever. There we go. Okay. Okay, here's my beautiful graphic. I have this beautiful graphic. I want to save it for my website or save it for something. I don't know. Save it for something. Again, you can come over here to your layer. Oh, let's get rid of the circle for now. So let's look at our. Here we go. Again, we can put these in a group if you want. Select them all, put them in a group. And this is my button. Hit OK. So there we go. We got a button. So one way we can go about exporting it, again, was under here. And you go quick export as PNG. That's fine. Or you can go export as. So it's going to export just this button, not the whole artboard. And so that's the difference between. So notice, see how it's the button here, right? Did you see that? Where is if I went over here where I went File, Export, Export as here, it's going to export the whole artboard. See? Okay, so again, there's two different ways there that I'm just showing you. Again, in the Layers window, you can choose the layer. You can have a group of stuff in a layer, just like I have here, text and a button. Go over here, and you got your Export Artboard. Where was it? Where was it? It was in here somewhere. Oh, here, Export as. There we go. So let's look at this. PNG, not too bad, only 16.4 kilobytes. Not too bad. Might use that. That's not too bad at all. Can make it even smaller right here with 8-bit. Look, it's only 8.2 kilobytes. Why can I do that? Well, there's not much color in here. See this? So this is going to make it 8-bit, which is basically reducing the color. It's almost when you use 8-bit PNG, it's like using GIF. It's like using the GIF format. Okay, so PNG is fine. This might work great for this button here. Work good on a website. Work good on in Xcode. If I come over here and say if it's a JPEG, bad, bad, bad. Don't use graphics like this as JPEG. Look at the file size, 66.6 kilobytes. Then if you reduce the quality, watch what happens to the image. It blurs it. Oh, I forgot. I keep trying to zoom with it. But look at the image. Look at the rounding edges. You can see the JPEGy when we use the term JPEGy. What is the term JPEG? Well, how JPEG works is it's a lossy compression scheme. So what it does is it tries to take pixels and combine them into bigger pixels. It takes 8-bit squares. Basically, it takes 8-bit. So it takes a 8-bit color grid and tries to squish that into one. That's why you see, if you look along the edge here, you might not see it very well here, but you can see it here. It's kind of blocky. Okay, so I reduced the quality down, and you'll notice it's 11 kilobytes, but it's still the 8-bit PNG was much better. The 8-bit PNG was much better. So I would avoid JPEG for anything like this. Don't ever do graphics. Oh, I can zoom out here. Graphics like this as JPEG. It's not. I would use PNG probably. And I may even use 8-bit. Look, 8.2 kilobytes. It's even smaller than the JPEG at the low quality. But look at the edges. Here, let's zoom in. I mean, it's a little blurry, but not perfect. It's better. Okay, but again, it's blurry. Watch this. Not PNG. GIF. GIF. 11 kilobytes. Okay, well, let's look at the edges. Oh, jeez, I keep using the keyboard command. Oh, it's still a little blurry. But the GIF is going to give you nice, usually sharp edges. I don't know why it's not giving me super sharp edges there. Maybe it's there. But again, GIF is good for this kind of thing as well. And how the GIF compression works, and the reason why it works good for things like that, is that instead of using, remember JPEG uses these 8-bit grids. It takes 8-bit squares and tries to squish them into one big pixel. That's why it's blocky. GIF is a little bit different. The way GIF compression works is it shoots a line that goes along the edge. So it shoots a line. And what that line is it's going to save that in one big line. So instead of, you can see kind of a grid pattern from the monitor. You can see all like the little pixel-looking things here. So it shoots a line that goes across, and if it doesn't see anything that interferes with the color on the edge, see how it's pink on the edge or purple, whatever you want to call it, and it shoots a line across, and there's no difference all the way to the edge. So then it doesn't have to save that. It just saves one pixel all the way across. It's like making one big giant pixel across. And so, you know, it does that all the way till it gets to here. There's a difference there. Then it gets up to here, shoots a line, boom, it registers that change, boom, registers that change, boom, registers that change, boom, registers that change. And it's only saving the difference between pixels next to each other. That's how it can compress and make a smaller file. So, you know, GIF might be an NSVG I probably wouldn't use. I mean, it's okay. And look, it's small. But, I don't know. We can try it. Oh, it's nice and sharp. I don't know. I don't really traditionally use Photoshop for SVG, so I don't know. I'm going to try it. Let's see. Just throw it on the desktop for now. Let's look at the SVG. We have other. I guess we can open in Dreamweaver. I just want to see the code. No. I can't open it. Okay, here's the code. Oh, look at that. Why does it have all these empty lines in between here? Really? Really? Okay, so here's the code for this. In SVG, NW, Adobe Core. Yeah. I guess it could be okay. Could have some issues though with it. If you really wanted it to be perfect, I would probably save this as PNG and put it on a website. This would be much smaller because it's code and it can be scalable. That's the advantage of it. I just don't know how good this code is generated from Photoshop. I kind of like the code from Illustrator a little bit better. I don't know. I'm going to try Illustrator. We're going to do the same thing in Illustrator and see the code, SVG code. Let's do the same thing. What did I do? I made a box, right? And it was, what, purple on the inside? Was it purple? Was it purple-ish? And then was the line what? Was kind of reddish? Can't remember what I did. How about that? And then we put in some text, right? And scaled that. Let me put it in there. Okay, and then let's export the artboard. I don't know. There's an export here. No, I don't have the export. Well, we can shrink the artboard down. Okay. So let's save this as SVG out of Illustrator. I just want to see the difference between the code. And this was button 2. So that's the code from Photoshop SVG. Let's see this one. Much different. You know, it's always been an issue with Adobe that they tend to change the code according to the product. So very similar type of graphic. Notice how seems a little bit simpler code in Illustrator compared to this code that comes from Photoshop. Again, I tend to use Illustrator because Illustrator is a vector program. SVG is a vector format, where Photoshop is primarily a bitmap or raster program, and then converting that raster stuff, even though I use vector tools to make the rectangle and stuff, just converting that to, so I don't know. I'm just pointing out SVG. So we talked about PNG, JPEG, GIF. We didn't really talk about PDF, did we? And then SVG. So to put the SVG on your screen, I wouldn't use it for Xcode. I don't know, I haven't got an SVG to work in Xcode. Again, save a vector is PDF, I'm sorry. So if I was going to save this to put into Xcode as a vector, I would use PDF, right? So if you're doing an app, and when I say Xcode, it's the program that makes the app, I would use the PDF. If I was going to use, again, graphics with alpha channel, or reviewing now, I'm sorry, reviewing, use PNG, right? Photos. JPEG is going to be much better for photographs all the time. Smaller usually than PNG. GIF, we didn't really make an animated GIF. You want to make an animated GIF real quick? I got 2 minutes before Gene comes. Let's make an animated GIF real quick. I know you need to go, Ashley. Go ahead. Ciao. You going to come back later?
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk later. Here we go. Okay, let's animate this character here. So we want to make his eyes animate and explode out of his head. To do that, I'm going to bring up the timeline. Timeline is what it is. It's, oh, where's my timeline? Here it is. It's jammed down here. I hate the way, they all assume we all have giant monitors. So timeline here is a way of making, and I'm going to convert this to a frame-by-frame timeline if I could. Create video timeline. No, I want a frame-by-frame timeline. No, I didn't want that. I want a frame-by-frame timeline. Really? I guess we can't do that right now. That's okay. I'll show you animated some other time. I don't know why. There's a button to convert that somewhere. I don't want this timeline. This one. There it is. Sorry. So here we go. We got there. I'm going to make a new frame, and then I'm going to make a new layer, or duplicate this layer. And then let's make his eyes fall out of his head by using the liquefy. And there we go, there. Okay, and let's do one more. We're going to duplicate this layer, and let's liquefy that. Okay, so here we go. We have a dude. Let me trash this one layer here. So we have a dude with straight eyes. I'm going to make a new frame, turn the eyeball on, make a new frame, turn the eyeball on, and then if I hit the, I'm going to change the seconds here to, down here, seconds, and let's do half a second each, and then let's play it. And we want to loop it forever. Actually, let's do more than half a second. Let's do quicker. And then let's do one, there we go, loop it. Okay, so you can make stupid GIFs like this for your Facebook friends very easily in Photoshop. How I do it is you make different artwork on different layers, as you can see here. Then you make different frames down here, which is basically, and then you match the frame to the layer. So 3 here is this one, 2 here is this one, 1 here is this one, and then there's a little play button like a VCR. Remember the days we had a VCR, or you know, you have players, and you can play it and loop it, and so on. So you probably get this in your Facebook feeds, don't you? Dumb GIFs. So again, you would have to save this in which format? GIF. It's an animated GIF. You can't save in JPEG. You can't save in PNG. This has to be a GIF. That's why the GIF is still around. You would think the GIF would be gone a long time ago. Okay, so hopefully there next week you should come in on Tuesday with an idea. I'm going to send you some emails over the weekend explaining what I want you to bring, okay? So I will send you an email. Look for it on Saturday. You should be reading your email. I send emails all the time.